Welcome to Place and Experience. Indulge your senses with immersive game titles. Boost the excitement with our engaging promotional tools and generous network promotions. Be in control with XI Viewport Management Tool and experience seamless gameplay powered by X Platform. Enjoy Place and Experience as our partners do in over 20 regulated markets. And get ready to go big. Big play is on. Place.
Well, there you have it, and we are live. Welcome back to another episode of your Next.io weekly news, where the only things bigger than our hairdos are the headlines. Nico, thank you very much for joining me. How are you today, my brother?
I'm perfectly fine, like always. As said, until tomorrow, I will still be in Berlin, which is, first of all, the capital of Germany. If anyone tells you otherwise, it's wrong. So it's Berlin. And it will also be the hosting city of the Euros final, which will happen, if I'm not mistaken, next weekend, Saturday. So it's quite thrilling. So you just see a very positive vibe all around the city, like in any other hosting cities as well in Germany. So we are doing a great job by just hosting the Euros, but once again, shout out to all the fans actually flying over and supporting their teams, having the best time of their lives, and creating pictures and videos, which we all enjoy, especially the Dutch madness and the Scots as well. It's awesome just seeing that each and every one of you is having the best time of their lives. So keep on doing so.
Yeah, it's been a fun tournament so far. I still haven't won any bets, but I'm looking forward to my 8-1 outright bet on Spain to win the tournament to come in, and the beers will be on me when that comes in, Nico, so don't worry about that. Let's say hello to Bogdan, who we haven't spoken to for a while. Thank you for joining us once. Always good to have you with us. We have got, Nico, an awful lot to discuss today. We've got lots of headlines, but also it's a special day because it is, of course, the 4th of July. So we should say a shout out to our American cousins and friends and colleagues over the Atlantic. Happy Independence Day to all of you. And it's also election day here in the UK. So as soon as we finish this podcast, I'm going to get out and go down the road and vote. And if you are in the UK, don't forget to do the same. Nico, how is Berlin for you? I believe you've been catching up with the Deutsche Sportswettenverband. So how's that been?
Indeed. So I was invited by their summer festives, which was very, very interesting because, the German sports betting union actually represents nearly 85-90% of all licensed entities in Germany. So besides each and everyone attending usually the exhibitions there, you could just see and feel and talk to the people who actually keep Germany up and running from a sports betting perspective, which was very nice. Besides the German sports betting union, guess what? It is actually the last week before the big summer holidays of the German parliament as well. And guess what? They don't hold back either. So it was very, very fun to actually see some of the ministers and just talk to them on a face-to-face level, because some of them actually like a German beer. And, actually sometimes just drinking a beer gets, lowers any kind of, distance. And then you can actually, talk to these people. That was fun as well. So we are having a great time, still productive, like our industry as well. But it was good fun. And speaking of, I'm pretty sure as soon as it comes to, pub crawling, this probably rings a bell in the UK as well.
Well, yes, I've been to the bar in the Houses of Parliament in the UK, and it's the cheapest bar in London because it's subsidised by the state. And let me tell you, Nico, the drinks flow freely among politicians and their helpers and advisors. So, yes, Certainly part of our culture. It's going to look very different tomorrow to how it does today. We're expecting a bit of a landslide here in Britain, so it will be bye-bye Rishi Sunak and hello somebody else, and then we'll just have to carry on. So let's not get too political, Nico, because we don't want to bore people. Instead, we should hit our listeners with the biggest headlines of the week, and let's face it, nobody does it quite like you. So why don't you give us your 10 in 5 for this week?
Okay, thank you. So, New York Casino Board sets licensing deadline for June 2025 under new chair. The New York Gaming Facility Location Board, the entity that is overseeing the ongoing commercial casino licensing process to downstate New York, has approved a new bid deadline for June 27, 2025. New York law allows for 3 brick-and-mortar commercial locations in and around New York and is currently welcoming bids for the venues. There are currently 11 proposals filed by operators, including Belly, Caesars, MGM Resorts, Hard Rock, Las Vegas Sands, and Mohegan. The proposals span locations ranging from Times Square in Manhattan to Long Island to the Bronx. And as assumed by Joseph Edebu, they will pay up to $1 billion per license. So $3 billion in the bank, probably in 2025. New York, you're welcome. BetMGM nets 3rd Premier League deal in a week with Tottenham Hotspur. So it seems like BetMGM are creating some facts and entering the UK big time. They have entered into a 3-year partnership with Premier League club Tottenham Hotspur FC, and the deal will see the Las Vegas group-owned operator become the men's and women's club official betting partner, as well as the official front of training wear partner as well. Besides Tottenham Hotspur, BetMGM also signed the Wolverhampton Wanderers and Newcastle United as well. Heading over to the US as Sportradar, and once again, shout out to our big friend, Feda Mekan, teams up with Huddle to distribute micro betting and player props products. Huddle has partnered with Sportradar to distribute its player props and micro betting products through the Sportradar Unified Odds feed. The duo aims to offer unique access to in-play betting for sportsbooks worldwide, as well as for their customers. As said, I know Fetcher is a big fan of Huddle, and if he invests, you should always keep an eye on them. Malaysia and Singapore police bust illegal betting ring. The Singapore police force and Royal Malaysia Police have joined forces in tackling a transnational illegal betting ring. 41 men and 2 women, age, and listen, between 34 and 82, were arrested for their part in a criminal organization being involved in online illegal betting operations. Maybe this might be linked to, as recently Singapore lowered their threshold deposits of its due diligence checks from 5,000 Singapore dollars to 4,000 Singapore dollars to combat money laundering and terrorism financing. So once again, shout out to the 82-year-old who has been arrested. As we all know, gaming doesn't know any age. Google to start allowing daily fantasy sports lottery courier ads. So Google will allow advertising for lottery courier services and daily fantasy sports across numerous US states beginning July 15th, 2024. This change marks a major shift in Google's approach to its gambling and games policy. A key provision of this policy requires that advertisers targeting states where licensing is not mandatory must be licensed in at least one state that has such requirements. This ensures that only certified operators can utilize Google's platform for their advertising needs. So besides SEO, now we will also see search engine advertisement, so SEA on Google for iGaming in the US as well. Fans Unite sells Betting Hero to founders and GeoComply for $37.5 million. GeoComply Solution has entered into a definite agreement with Fans Unite Entertainment and Hero Group Corporation. This agreement will see Fans Unite sell all issued and outstanding share of Fans US, which operates the Betting Hero business, to Hero Group Corporation for an aggregate purchase price of 37.5, subject to typical working capital and cash adjustments. Hero Gaming secures $2 million funding boost and adds new investors. And now listen carefully. Hero Gaming has closed its latest funding round, securing an additional $2 million aimed at accelerating the company's growth within the micro-betting industry. And now investors represent some well-known industry names like Paris Smith, Benji Cherniak, as well as Sharp Alpha Fund and YOLO. Once again, shout out to our friends Paris Smith and Benji, and of course, Tim Heath, YOLO, and Sharp Alpha as well. Link raises additional 2.3 million to fuel real money games. And also here, investors includes the likes of A16Z Speedrun, which led the 1.5 million initial seed round, as well as Drive by DraftKings, and once again, Sharp Alpha Advisors as well. And two more, as DraftKings eye potential sale of Vegas Sports Network. DraftKings is said to be thinking about selling the Vegas Sports Information Network, VSIN, and analysts are drawing parallels between this possible transaction and Penn Entertainment's offloading of Barstool Sports last year, when Barstool went back to the founder Dave Portnoy for just $1. And last but not least, Germany's black market accounts for 4% GGR in 2023, as GGL claims. The Germany's gambling regulator, shortly GGL, reported that illegal gambling revenue accounted for up to 4% of the country's total gross gaming revenue, GGR, in 2023. If you don't believe it, just take a look at the numbers. I'm doubting these numbers, but it's the official statement of a regulatory board, and who would not take these numbers for granted? So shout out once again to GGL. You're doing a great job.
There you go. I should point out that there have been several alternative opinions on those figures, and there is some suggestion, Nico, that the figures may not be entirely accurate. Of course, it's very difficult to measure, let's say that. Very difficult to measure what happens in the black market because of its very nature. It's kind of hidden, isn't it? So we don't really know. Anyway, well done, Nico. Lots of stories going on this week, and we've got 4 more to share with you because it has been a busy week. Some company news, some international news, some new markets, some market exits, and lots going on. So let's get into it for the first story, which is all about eBet, which was formerly known as Esports Technologies when it was first set up a few years ago. But the gaming brands belonging to eBet are set to be sold off by its creditors in a foreclosure sale, after which the company is likely to cease operations altogether. It's selling off all of its remaining assets. I think they call that a fire sale, Nico, because things haven't gone terribly well. So eBet investor Hilco Streambank announced earlier this week that it's going to sell off the 7 European iGaming and sports betting brands owned by eBet in a public auction on the 1st of August. So just to give you a bit of background on this, it all Well, it's been ongoing, I guess, for a few years now, the problems at Esport Technologies or eBet. Last year in June, the company defaulted on a debt that it owed to its creditor called CPBF Lending. And as of the 17th of June this year, it owes a total of about $37 million to its creditors. If you look at the share price, I think shares are less than 1 cent US at the moment. I think they're 3/4 of a cent each because it's basically winding down. So eBet has failed to pay its obligations multiple times over the last year or so, despite an attempt to restructure the debt in October 2023. So in an SEC filing last month, the company said its lender has a security interest on all assets of the company, and the lender will likely exercise its right to foreclose on such assets in connection with its attempt to satisfy the company's debt obligations. So selling everything off to try and pay down those debts. Upon such a foreclosure, the company will likely no longer have any meaningful assets or business operations and will likely cease operations. So there you go. So question is, Nico, what's for sale and who's going to buy it? Because if you remember all those years ago, 2021, Esports Technologies acquired Aspire Global's B2C assets, and that was a 135 million euro deal, I think, altogether, or it would have been up to 135 million. So that included brands such as Karamba, Hoper, Griffon Casino, Bet Target, Generation VIP, Dansk 777, and Scratch to Cash. So this was originally an esports company. It bought these assets. It kind of pivoted towards iGaming. It did a few other things to try and turn things around. It exited the UK, I remember, because it was kind of a very expensive market to be in and it wasn't generating enough money. But anyway, all those brands are now up for sale, and we've got a bit of insight into some of the numbers involved. So together, the website's generated around $21 million in revenue over the past year, well, the 12 months to March 2024. And during 2023, they had an average of around 18,400 players using the sites each month, and the mean first-time deposit was of 127 euros. So it's not nothing, Nico. It's still, there's still some pretty reasonable operations here of a reasonable size. Obviously, eBet's in a position now where it has to pay down that debt, so it's got no choice, I guess, but to sell it off. So in the auction, 1st of August, you are going to be able to buy eBet's trademarks, domain names, patents, copyrights, and front-end website code. Interested parties will also be able to buy customer and transaction data for the company's 925,000 previous users. So they've got 18,400 active players a month, but they've got a huge database of previous users. And any buyer will also receive interest as a plaintiff in ongoing litigation between eBet and Aspire Global. eBet is currently challenging Aspire in court over the 2021 asset purchase, arguing that certain aspects of the deal were presented fraudulently. So, Nico, I love a bit of conjecture. These are not worthless brands. They're certainly worth a few euros or a few dollars. So any thoughts in terms of who might be an appropriate buyer for 7 brands like these?
So first of all, these probably some of the affiliate networks come into play, maybe GIG as well, as they are restructuring their overall company, so they might have an appetite there as well. But yeah, we, as said so many times, we will just see. But if you want to read the full story, just don't forget to scan the QR code like one of you already did, and then you can get even more into detail. But it's quite interesting, formerly belonging to Aspire Global, which had been bought by Neo Games, then Aristocrats. It seems like they're offloading or starting to offload companies and assets. But we will see how this will turn out. But as of now, with the debts, it's quite challenging. But as also said so many times, Hollywood loves a comeback. And if we have seen the comeback of Lottery.com in the US, why won't eBet be the second comeback, which we'll see? In addition, Terminator 2 was way better than Terminator 1. So fingers crossed that eBet will be back on track as well.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, they've got $37 million in debt, but they generated $21 million in revenue over the past year. So, maybe they get more than the 37 million and walk away with a bit of a golden handshake even. I don't know how it will all work. But we'll find out. 1st of August, there you go. You have a deadline. We know when it's going to happen. So something to look forward to there. Certainly, it's a group of assets that has the potential, I think, for a smaller business to really transform and set somebody on a pretty nice growth path if they can secure the right investment into those brands, I guess. Anyway, Nico, that's enough on eBet. We have another story here. We got a bit of clarity this week on Finland. I know you've been looking into this one. Do you want to tell us what the latest is?
Yeah, so as already anticipated by mid of 2023, because as of now, Finland and a part of the Finnish gaming sector will be opening up to privately held companies, because yesterday's Finland's government tabled a bill to establish an open gambling licensing system with a proposed launch date of January 2027. So within the 10 and 5, we just talked about the casino landscape in the city of New York, and they just extended their bidding process until June of 2025. So there will be a little bit more time in Finland with January 2027. So under the proposed system, state-owned operator holding the monopoly, Veikkaus would retain its monopoly over lotteries, land-based casino games, and physical slots machine, as well as totalisator and pool betting. So 5 things which you cannot pitch for. Meanwhile, private license operators would be permitted to offer sports betting and iGaming under a 22% GGR tax rate, while B2B licenses would also be available for software suppliers. So if you're eyeing on the Finnish market, hold your horses. January 2027, you will be able to actually apply for it. Finland first committed to open up its monopoly-based gaming market in June 2023 after it found persistently low channelization to its regulated offerings and continuing issues with problem gaming. And this is something which is not exclusively for the Finnish market. So the tighter regulation actually becomes, the more likely people will try to escape the license market and go to the black market. Finnish gaming law expert Ati Kuvula said it should be highlighted that it's not a final version of the law, and it is anticipated to more modifications than on previous occasions will be implemented after the now beginning hearing phase. So it will be quite interesting if the regulator will be listening, besides lobbying entities, also to operators, and also get their lessons learned from regulatory framework like the German one, the MGA, the one coming up in Gibraltar as well. So one thing is for sure, it is now up to the interest groups to provide their statements for the benefit of the legislative reform process within the giving deadline, which is August 18, a task which we will gladly assist. The draft law, which runs to 417 pages, includes KYC requirements, an 18-year minimum age for gambling, and a proposed centralized self-exclusion system, like we know from Germany and the Netherlands as well. The bill also described rules around the marketing and sponsorship activities as well. And once again, a statement from Antti Kuvola. There is a relatively liberal approach to marketing in terms of mass media and sponsoring. However, the use of bonuses, affiliates, and influencers will be banned. Yeah, quite interesting. And we also see a timeline. The ministry said the aim is to submit the proposal to Parliament in the spring session of 2025. If approved, the new system would be implemented in a state rollout with license application open by the beginning of 2026. Veikkaus would maintain its monopoly until the end of that year, with licensed gambling operators launching their offerings by January the 1st, 2027. And as we have seen also in the Netherlands, fingers crossed that the self-exclusion system will be up and running, fully up and running by 1st of January. In the Netherlands, we've seen that even the official start had been postponed 1 week as the self-exclusion system did not work as anticipated. But one thing is for sure, the Finnish market will be opening up. And as we all know, competition keeps everybody in condition. So what is your take on the story, Connor?
Well, I guess it's one we're going to have to follow and see what changes we get. I think 417 pages of legislation is probably quite comprehensive. I think the danger here is, like you mentioned before, that if it becomes too restrictive, the danger then is that people will not channel towards the licensed market and they'll continue. There's obviously going to be a certain existing precedent in Finland where if you want to, use online casino operators, that you have to go through somebody without a license. And the question is, how can the regulated market bring those players over? We know for a fact that if you had no bonuses and no affiliates, let's say here in the UK, operators would have a very difficult time trying to acquire customers, because that's two of the big things that really help them to do that. A ban on influencers, I think, is somewhere in the middle. That's a bit more, that's pretty, becoming increasingly relevant, I think. And in the Netherlands, they have a ban on role models, which is the same thing. So I know that I see why that makes sense, because people can be unduly influenced by people who they follow on social media and all this kind of thing. And there has to be some responsibility there. But now that we have the hearing period open, I think this proposed ban on bonuses and affiliates is probably one of the big things that people are going to be lobbying against. And I expect people will also see if they can get that tax rate a bit lower than 22% of GGR. But if you look at somewhere like New York, 22% sounds very reasonable indeed. So again, it's just another story that we'll be keeping our eye on, and let's see, again, mid-August, it looks like we'll have start to get some developments there. And I also think, it's a long time between here and 2027, but sometimes it's good to try and make sure you get everything right. I think you need to give yourself that lead time to work out the details. And like you say, that way, when the market goes live, your self-exclusion system works, your licensees are in place, the games have been tested, and so on. So there you go. That's Finland for you. And I know that a lot of operators will be thinking about getting their license applications in. Now we're going to move on to the next story. But before that, I'm going to give our producer Lorena a moment to prepare, because I think we're going to have a short video message to share with you. So before we move on, let's see if we can get that live.
Tens of thousands of games, hundreds of studios, dozens of hub market partners, an industry-leading hub wallet, and just one API. Hub 88 is connecting businesses to a world of limitless content where the possibilities are endless. Hub.
There you have it. And of course, thank you to Hub 88 for sponsoring this episode once again. Now, we've looked at Finland, we've looked at eBet, and now we are going to look in just a moment at another story. But first, Bogdan has given us some of his insights in the comments. Social media and social chat groups will explode in Finland, and that's where you will have your marketing, he suggests. And 22% on GGR is okay. Look, for example, at Poland to compare. 12% turnover tax. You want to place a bet for 100? No, you're placing a bet for 88. Yeah, well, exactly. It's always better to tax the revenue, not the handle. We always say that, because otherwise, who ends up suffering? It's the players, exactly. And it shouldn't be the players who suffer. They should get what they deserve. So thanks, Bogdan, and keep your comments coming, everybody. It's always good to hear your take on things. Now, our next story is about Kambi. We had some, what would you say? We had some slightly reluctant commentary from Kambi today. They've downgraded some 2027 financial targets, basically. It's a strange week, isn't it, Nico? We're talking about 2027 this week. I don't know why, but there you go. Kambi has revealed today that it has withdrawn its 2027 financial targets due to slower than expected progress towards regulation in key markets. So what are we talking about? Back in January 2023, last year, Kambi set itself targets of between 330 million and 500 million in annual revenue, and earnings before interest and tax exceeding 150 million euros by 2027. However, today they have said that all that was a little bit too optimistic, because it said it had already started a review of the underlying assumptions that formed its targets in February this year. So today it said the board concluded that Kambi has made progress in areas within its control. However, slower than expected progress towards regulation in certain key markets would likely delay revenue from such markets. Well, yeah, I guess so. So it previously emphasized the fact that in order to reach those targets, it was going to need regulatory progress across the Americas, so US states, Canadian provinces, and LATAM countries, and also in strategically important Asian countries. It said that regulation in those areas was going to be crucial to achieve its 2027 targets. So today it said, in general, the pace of sports betting regulation has slowed compared to previous years, illustrated by recent news that regulated sports betting in California is unlikely to occur in or before 2027. And of course, Nico, we all remember the race to the bottom campaign in California, where everybody attacked each other and spent $1 billion in the process. And then what happened? Nothing happened. So well done, everybody, for that. Kambi had projected, though, that California would contribute approximately 20 to 25 million euros in revenue in 2027 with minimal incremental costs. Well, you know, there's always going to be a cost, of course, of entering a new market. So perhaps even that was optimistic. But there you go. They've downgraded their targets, and the timing is kind of apt, because who is going to have to deal with these new targets? Well, it's not Christian Nyland, who is the current CEO. He announced earlier this year that he's standing down. And on Monday, I think, Kambi announced that it is going to appoint Werner Becher I presume that's maybe a German name, Nico. You can confirm that for me. He's a former CEO of Interwetten and of a former executive at Sportradar. So Becca's going to take over on the 25th of July in just 3 weeks today. And that's going to be straight after the release of Kambi's Q2 results. So when Becca comes in, Kambi said the board believes that Kambi should have long-term financial targets, and such targets will be evaluated with the new CEO and communicated when appropriate. So, new change at the top, Nico. Excuse me, some slightly lower targets. There hasn't really been talk at Kambi, I don't think, of any huge strategic change. One big thing they've been talking about is this modularization strategy and being able to offer small parts of their product portfolio on a kind of bespoke basis, which I think is quite sensible. But otherwise, I guess new CEO, but what kind of business as usual? What's your take?
So, first of all, Werner Becher has been one of my first contacts in the sports betting industry, dating back in 2013, 2014. So to give you a little bit of insights on Werner. So before actually, taking the level spot, the CEO spot at Interwetten, he has been had been a very successful entrepreneur, sold his business. So one thing is for sure, he's one of the getting things done type of guys. So then he actually paved the way. While being at Interwetten for Dominic Bayer, he followed Werner becoming the CEO, and he actually reported the best numbers ever for Interwetten. So this goes out to Dominic Bayer, also a good friend of mine. Then Werner actually joined Sportradar and took care of the US business. So as said, founding your own company, selling the company, paving the way for the best ever reported numbers as well, paving the way for Sportradar in the US. So one thing is for sure, if you're on board Werner, you are about to significantly change things. As of now, and this is what usually the C-levels actually do, lowering expectations, and this is where Werner is actually quite good at, because usually under-promise and over-deliver is not just a saying, but I'm pretty sure, keep an eye on Kambi. They have reliable products which they will actually about to offer. And as said, things are about to change in a good way for Kambi. And as already said, we all love a comeback. So it has been quite silent on Werner, but I'm pretty sure we will see positive news actually hitting the Next.io website in a short period of time.
Excellent. Yes. And now that I know he's a friend of yours, we can invite him onto the stream, Nico, once he starts as CEO, and he can come and tell us what his big plans are. But yeah, absolutely right. I think that makes sense. Under promise and over deliver. Yeah. So there you go. Lots to look out for there. Another story to watch until 2027. So here we go. It'll keep us busy for the next 3 years.
Yeah.
Now we have one final story for you, which is another business over in Canada, in fact, which has gone through some changes this week. Nico, have you got the information on what's happening at Rivalry this week? Not the happiest news, unfortunately.
Not the happiest news, but it's not the big time shit actually hitting the fan. It's Rivalry has laid off 29 people, so 29 staff, part of restructuring exercise intended to realign teams and support its expansion into a new product categories and audience segments. As Rivalry continues to prioritize areas where we are finding the most customer success and return on invested capital, we have to realize that the roles needed for our future are different from those brought us here today, said CEO and co-founder Stephen Saltz. Moving forward, we will continue to narrow our focus on areas where we believe our skills can create asymmetric opportunities to compete and win, including scaling back specific aspects of our strategy and reshaping our teams around that he actually added. The change follows Rivalry's pivot towards iGaming and plans to enter the B2B sector, as well as the introduction of its native cryptocurrency, the Rivalry token. On LinkedIn, Saltz shared a list of some of the affected employees, including their names, roles, and contact information for potential new employers to get in touch. Saltz said, as we continue to make strategic shifts to add Rivalry with an eye toward the future, we have unfortunately made the difficult decision to part ways with some of our talented colleagues this week. To impacted employees, we deeply respect you and your incredible contribution to Rivalry, he added. Saltz said Rivalry has given affected staff the option to opt in to the list and wants to support them in their search for a new home. So I don't know if this is the right way to do things. First of all, shout out to actually support your staff with finding a new job. But I'm pretty sure there are way more polite ways to actually tell your employees in a LinkedIn post that you're fired. But different ballgame in the US. Sometimes, and I'm speaking about Google, they just found out if they had been laid off as soon as their card to actually enter the office doesn't work anymore. So things might be a little bit different in the US, but there are job opportunities at the big winners like the DraftKings and the FanDuels. And shout out to each and everyone just onboarding some of the 29 unlucky employees.
Yes, I should point out, Nico, there's nothing, absolutely nothing to suggest that the LinkedIn post is how these employees found out that their jobs had been terminated. I think they were probably contacted directly first. They were given the option to opt into a list so that Stephen and Rivalry could share their details. So anyone out there who's hiring, especially who's hiring in North America and looking for staff from an iGaming or a betting organization, take a look at Rivalry's page, take a look at Stephen Saltz on LinkedIn, and maybe you'll just find the person that you are looking for. Again, I think this is a much better way of dealing with things than letting people show up to the office and find their key card doesn't let them in anymore, or getting getting 1,000 employees on a Zoom call and saying you're all fired. I think Stephen's done it the right way. I'm assuming all these staff were contacted directly to let them know, and they didn't find out on LinkedIn. So I just want to clarify that. But there you go, Nico. You know, these things kind of come in waves sometimes. It's about restructuring the business and getting the right talent and the right skills where they need it. It's unfortunate, but, you know, it sounds like there's a lot of talented staff here who can offer an awful lot to a lot of other businesses. We wish them well, onwards and upwards to the next challenge and opportunity. And there you go. Hopefully it works out for the best for everyone.
Latest until 2027.
Yes, exactly. We'll keep you updated on this one too. Exactly. Well, there you go. We've been here for nearly an hour, Nico. It's been fun. I think I better get out and get down the polling station now and cast my vote. So unless you have anything to add, maybe it's time for us to go.
Yeah. As said so many times, just enjoy the Euros. If you are able to actually vote in the UK, make use of your vote, because people actually died back in the days to being able to actually vote. So don't take this privilege for granted. Don't take it for granted and make use of it. So whatever your fancy, doesn't matter. Just make use of your voice.
Absolutely. And finally, buena suerte to Spain on in the quarterfinal this weekend. Let's get a win against Germany. Let's let Connor win a single bet on this bloody tournament, please. Let's let Spain win all the way to victory. Or England would be fine, I guess. But, you know, the money's on Spain, Nico. So that's what I'm hoping for. You've got to follow the bets. So good luck to Spain. Good luck to Germany too. May the best team win. That's all I've got to say.
Yeah, exactly. May the best team win. And may Tony Kroos get his final game of his professional football career in the Euros final, lifting the trophy. So once again, shout out. If Spain loses, I will send over the £5 wager to you on PayPal. PayPal you. So I got you covered, like I always got your back, my friend. And to each and everyone, enjoy yourself. Have a great time. Enjoy the weekend. I'm off for another pina colada.
Nice. Thanks, Nico. We'll see you here next time. Same place, same time next week.
Bye.
Bye.